Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mastermind, Body, and Spirit Show. I'm your host, Matt Belair. For the last 25 years, today's guest has been coaching thousands of top performers to achieve enlightened prosperity. His books, audios, and seminars utilize his street-tested methodology called the Rapid Enlightenment Process, a guaranteed system to achieve profound states of happiness and success in life. Welcome to the show, Matthew Ferry.
What is up? Nice name, Matt.
Right back at you, brother.
Yeah, exactly. Gift from God. That's what that means. I don't know if you know that or not.
I did not know that. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Right on.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's really amazing. Well, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And I'm super excited about sharing with your viewers some of the ideas to help them get into deep states of happiness and peace and be unbelievably practical about it and apply it to their everyday life so that they can live the life that they want.
That sounds really great. I think everybody would be excited about that.
Yeah.
It was great to look at your background. You've done a lot of work. You're out there. You're doing it. You've been doing it for a long time. For people who are new to your work and the message you're bringing, do you want to give them a little bit of a brief background of how you got to where you are, and then we'll dive into these fascinating concepts?
Yeah, sure. I think I'm probably a standard spiritual type who had pretty profound moments early on in life. And at 9 years old, I was accidentally leaving my body, and the state of ecstasy and peace and joy was like so intense that I never really I could never forget about it. And so as a standard teenage modality, I tried drugs, I tried alcohol, I tried sex, I tried stardom, I tried success, I tried money, I tried everything possible to achieve those states again. Just go back into that state where I knew that all was well and that nothing bad was happening in the world. And none of it worked. And it wasn't until I really dove back into my inner game that I was able to start to experience those states of ecstasy and joy and peace that I sought. And the crazy thing was, as I began to go inward and resolve some of the own negativity within myself that was blocking me from my peace and my joy, uh, everything started working better. I started to become more effective at all the things that I did. And back in the day, I was a real estate sales coach. My father is the top real estate sales coach probably in the world right now. Maybe my brother, who is his competition, is coming up on his heels. But uh, the thing is that when I was working with these realtors, I would see, okay, yeah, I could teach you what to do, but then you wouldn't do it. Or if you did do it, you were miserable. And then if I just began to share just a little bit of the stuff that I was experiencing, all of a sudden they would flourish and they would start to have this incredible acceleration in their prosperity and their effectiveness. And so ultimately, I just sort of had to come to peace with myself that while I am deeply devoted to people being productive, effective, and prosperous in their lives, I, the way that I assist people to get there is by sorting out their own happiness and peace and getting to a state of joy and peace and flow first, and then applying that energy to their money making and their relationships and et cetera, et cetera. So that's sort of the evolution of the last 30 years.
Amazing. I totally agree with that. And it's funny how, some people are either on that page and it really makes perfect sense to get to a high vibrational state first, you know what I mean? Sort out what's really important first so we can flow from there rather than do it backwards. And I've brought it up a few times. Maybe you can remember, but what is it? It's like the Dalai Lama quote where he's like, we trade our time for this and our health for that. Do you know what I'm talking about? That quote? I need to pull it up because I referenced
Yep,
it.
I do, but I'm like you. I don't remember it. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't log all the quotes, but I am
Yeah.
inspired by them.
Right. Yeah. So it's, essentially, the bottom line is we'll trade all these things rather than just getting to the most important thing first, what we value first. It's like, we'll work really hard, so then when we retire, then we get the thing. But how about we get into joy and peace and prosperity and fulfillment now, and then work for those things from that state. So I
Yeah,
definitely resonate with that.
I have a client that I just got off the phone with. So, I have many different businesses that I'm operating, and one of them is a private coaching business. And my main clients are some of the wealthiest, most successful people in the world. And I just got off the phone with a guy. They probably have a $50 million net worth, and he still is afraid that he doesn't have enough. He's still afraid that he's not successful enough. He still feels like he's a loser. And the game that we're playing with him is not about how do we make more money. The game is how do you come to a place where your reality has integrity, because your reality currently is being degraded by these entropic forces that are a natural part of the universe that we live in: greed, grudge, hatred, victim, illogical rules. These aspects of consciousness, when you don't spot them and see them, they actually pull you into a distorted reality that causes you to experience negativity for no reason. You become attached to imaginary benefits that aren't even coming, hoping that they will produce the actual feeling you want, when that feeling is available right now if you just move into quiet mind states.
Yep, 100%, man. I totally agree. One of the things that I'll say to people when they're talking about enlightenment, and we'll definitely dive into there because I like your approach, and from what I've read on it, I'm in full alignment and agreement. And so I'll just say, just enlightenment is 3 deep breaths. If you can come to the focus, quiet the mind.
Yep.
There's no mind getting in the way to tell you that it's not, or the thing that you need. It's just the present moment. It is here now. It's here always. And the thing, when people maybe haven't, you don't need to meditate, or you don't really have to do anything, but when your mind is just running all the time and it's just scattered it's hard to kind of get to this space of stillness to experience that, because that's kind of the natural nature of our mind, the monkey mind, which you speak on. So maybe I'll pass it over to you to talk a little bit about your book. I love the title, Quiet Mind, Epic Life, and your view on practical enlightenment and rapid enlightenment, because I think that you have a nice take on it.
I suspect that my ideas about it are just a little more practical, and though I am definitely part of the spiritual tribe out there who is intrigued by what would probably not be very mainstream ideas, I'm also unbelievably devoted to taking these ideas that we think of as, like, oh, it's so wild and new agey. How do you make that really practical? And for me, enlightenment is really it's just an extreme level of discernment in reality. Enlightenment, really, if you're just being honest, is just you seeing things as they are, rather than seeing things through your filters. You see that you have filters. You see that your mind should not be trusted. You don't listen to your mind like it is your friend. Your mind calls you fat and stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, if your friends called you fat and stupid, they wouldn't be your friends. But you listen to your mind like that all the time. And so I call the mind the drunk monkey. And it sort of came about when I was young. I had a mentor, Jose Silva. And Jose Silva, I mean, I didn't know him personally, probably like you. I just study people, right? And Jose Silva, as I was studying his stuff, he was talking about the monkey mind. I was like, you know what? My mind is wasted. My mind is like a complete obnoxious drunk person. And I started calling my mind the drunk monkey back then. But what I have found is that when you actually correct the imbalances that are occurring in consciousness, and these imbalances are just outdated pieces of information. We might call them karmic. When you correct the karmic imbalances of greed, for example, the fear that there won't be enough, when you're able to see that for what it is, It's an aspect of consciousness. It's a part of the race consciousness. It's been unbelievably valuable. It's just no longer relevant. When you're able to come to a peace with, it's no longer relevant. I have all the stuff that I need. I have a phone, I have a computer, I have a place to live, I have a mode of transportation. I can put food on the table. And even if I had none of that stuff, the society that we've set up will make sure that I have all the things that I need. If I am a kind and supportive person, I'm going to get the stuff that I need in general. So, and I can be in charge of my kindness. I can be in charge of whether I'm collaborative or supportive. So when you come to a place of recognizing that stuff, Matt, and you see it, all of a sudden the motive for thinking disappears. And what I have found, at least for me, the rapid enlightenment process is to remove the motive for thinking. And when you remove the motive, here comes your spirit, here comes your intuition. You're literally overwhelmed with joy and happiness on a regular basis. You're like crying for no reason. You feel so good. And when you're in that state, you're creative, you're resourceful, you're effective, you're powerful. I mean, it's ridiculous what happens when you're in that state.
That's fascinating. That's wow. That's a new one for me, actually. I've heard of a lot of different things. I've never heard that specifically. That's really fascinating. So, okay, so you touched on it a little bit. So getting to the root, how do we remove the motive for thinking exactly, and go a little bit more into the rapid enlightenment process? So maybe like an example would be, you get up, and the way that what I say is that, a common thing for people would be, you get up and then the brain turns on and it goes to find some money, right? Because that's what you got to do. Because if you don't find the money, you don't find the sandwich. You know what I mean? And that's the important thing. Back in the day, we went to go find the elk. It was very simple. So
Yeah.
now it's just a lot more complicated. So
Yeah.
I'd love for you to dive a little bit deeper into that, because I think that's really fascinating. Because our mind is about 70 to 90,000 thoughts a day. They're mostly repetitive, probably mostly negative. Like you said, your mind is a bit of a drunk a-hole to yourself, and you're touching on really a very powerful concept. Another, to go a little bit deeper into it, when I'm reading some of the masters and how we visualize, how we create a reality, it'll talk about visualizing it, putting it into the quantum field or whatever you want, right? Now, you could have a desire that's 100%, and I equate it to a pond, like a big pond, and you say $1 million, let's just say that, although we want it to be like a house or an ideal family, something more value-based ideally, but let's just say it's an object, $1 million or ideal career. You drop it in, and then the waves go out, and the universe is going to bring it back to you because you have that right. But right beside it, you drop 100 pounds of doubt, the exact same poundage of your desire. So now you have a distorting signal. But what people don't understand, and I think that you're touching on so powerful, is that when we put out the desire and the thing that we want, we also shout out every thought we have as interference, every worry, every doubt, everything. And so now you're just dropping all these pebbles to interfere. And so if we could take that out, and you can help us with that and get really deep, that's going to be a really powerful state of being to bring in and attract more prosperity and ideal scenario. So maybe you can jump in on that.
Well, I'm also going to open some slides because I have a slide that might be helpful on this. We'll see if I can get it to open and share.
Yeah,
But I think
please.
that there's a couple things. Okay, you touched on a couple things. I'd like to start by clarifying what has both occurred for me, and then what I have verified through my experience of working with high-powered individuals who are in fact very creative and do have tremendous capability at bringing what they want into reality. Hold on a second. Do I have that thing? It's not pulled up here. Okay, I'll do that in a minute. I'll come back and grab it. We at the level of consciousness where we recognize ourselves as an individual but have not yet recognized ourselves as the pervasive oneness, um, uh, manifesting, we are intrigued by the idea of I put my thoughts on something, and then the waves go out and the thing comes back. And that's a very important part of our evolution as we move towards greater states of enlightenment. As you move into the higher states of enlightenment, you begin to realize that you are the one that is being created, that you're not creating anything. And the idea that you're creating something it begins to feel a little preposterous, that you are an expression of the pervasive oneness. The electrons, protons, and neutrons that are you are nothing more than you and I are seeing the fluctuation of energy that is then distinguishing it to our senses. But there is this, the world is manifesting, and everything is possible. So doubt is part of the buffet. Here it is. It's possible. And this dream is also possible. And what people like you and I have been working on, and probably your listeners as well, is we've been working on putting our attention on the thing that is coming. So I want to say it in this way, that when we have a new idea for a goal, it's not our idea. It's not mine. The idea is there. It's in the field. It's coming. And as it comes, my goal is to just focus on it and experience it and be it, and just trust that it's coming, and not get attached to the meaning of its full expression, because it may express itself, it may not. I may get my goal, I may not get my goal. It's sort of like this. We're not creating goals. We are the goal that is being created. The goal is coming through us. It's in the field. We're noticing it. And the quieter our mind gets, the easier it is to notice the good stuff. The quieter our mind gets, the easier it is to see the really positive, amazing things that are manifesting in our experience. And the more our mind is cluttered, the more we notice all of the survival-based ideas, which are ideas like, there's not enough, so I need to go grab it. Or ideas like, the world is messed up and I'm a victim and I'm powerless, and what am I going to do to fight against it? When we are focused in that way, we have a tendency to then channel that part of the creative expression of the universe into our reality, into the world. We are what is being created. So there is the collaboration, but there's also the recognition that stuff is manifesting. The universe is seeking to go into higher states of order at all times. And there's also entropic forces at the exact same time that are degrading. Well, it's like, where do you want to play? Because it's all available, and neither is bad or good or right or wrong. They both exist. They're all here. Where do you want to focus? So I'm going to say it in this way. As you recognize that there are underlying aspects of consciousness which are programmed in, let's call it genetically and karmically, into the way in which we filter reality. As you recognize that, you can then do something about it. You can choose something else. When you choose something else, your mind goes into this quiet state. The only purpose of the mind, the purpose of all that chatter, is to survive. But to survive is absurd. You're not going to survive. You will die, period. And there's also a recognition that when you die, all you are is energy. All that, so you're not actually dying. And we see, now that we have had these medical advancements, we have these people who have these near-death experiences, and they're like, holy smokes, wait a second. I'm telling you right now, I died, and then this other stuff happened, and then I came back, and I want to tell you, something else going on here, right? So we as a people are waking up to this idea that as sort of globally, you're not going anywhere. You're just going to have a different experience. So you might as well let go of all the survival-based stuff so you can focus on this thriving energy. Sorry, I was getting a little bit ranty there. I'm passing it back to you.
Beautiful. That's the whole point, man. I love when the guests can rant. That was a really beautiful rant too, and I resonate with it. I align with it. You know, the way that I kind of feel, and I'm glad because you added some clarity there, where it's you kind of perceive it as the I goal, right? So it's like Matt is. Matt, we're both Matt. So Matt is bringing this forth when you're also suggesting is like we're not bringing anything forth. It's life itself. It's the divine principle. It's the oneness that we're picking it up from, and we're expressing life through ourselves as a unique signature of life in harmony with the one thing. And I've been bringing it up all the time lately because I love the book, but it's the life and teaching in Masters of the Far East, and they're explaining on how they do all these miracles, like Christ level miracles of healing and bilocation and all these things. And the masters say this is scientific fact, this is universal law, everybody can do this, and we're not doing any of it. It's the divine principle, it's source, it's nature itself, it's the stuff that's breathing us. Coop Blackson was on a little bit ago, and he talked about how life is breathing us. Our hearts, it's beating our hearts, and it's growing the trees, and it's doing all those things. We're not doing any of that, so
No,
we
we're
can
not.
kind of identify, with what we're bringing forth. This is my business, my car, my creation, and really, at the end of the day, behind that, it's life's creation, creating it through you, and you get a say when you kind of quiet the mind and feel into what feels good, and you get to create. It's a co-creation, with the bigger picture behind you, and that's really the powerful space to be in, because otherwise it's what we're touching on as well as the survival state. When you're in the survival state, you got to go get a stack of sandwiches. You got to go get a whole bunch of money and loot and stuff like that, because you got to make sure that you can eat sandwiches for the rest of your life to survive. And people get in the fear state where they stack up all that gold and that stuff to make sure, right? Because somebody could come in one day and just take it all right away. So you need more. And when you're out of that state, when you're in this the other side of the realm where you know that you're eternal, that you are life, that you continue, and there's nothing to be afraid of. Well, now you're starting to play with real personal freedom with the other side. So I think that that's what you're touching on. And I'll kind of give it back to you to see where you want to go with it. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about the rapid enlightenment process, because it's so interesting that you have all these guests and people will touch on it. It's the same principle, but it's like when you get it right, it kind of sinks in, and little by little by little it sinks in. So I'd love to hear your take on it. And then I think you even have a trademarked enlightened prosperity, which is a common thing in the spiritual community, where if you're giving of service, then you can't be prosperous, right? It's like two different things, but now we're kind of moving away from that, hopefully, as a culture, so we can have both. So I just wonder if you want to touch on one or both of those.
All right. Well, so the rapid enlightenment process is actually a process that utilizes contextualization. And what I have discerned over the years is that by shifting your context, so it's exactly what you just talked about. When you accept, when you adopt, when you admit that the source of life in you is the source of life in everything and everyone else. When you admit it and you embrace it, you recognize that we're all basically one thing expressing itself in infinite variety. The moment you adopt that contextualization is the moment that your mind goes into a quiet state. Your awareness increases and your ability to accept goes up. So it's like this. The mind goes quiet. When the mind goes quiet, you see more. As you see more and more and more, you then are confronted with a whole reality that you weren't seeing before. And then you have to use techniques or skills of acceptance. And those skills of acceptance are the tools in which you're going to consistently increase your consciousness, and your consciousness, again, being literally just how much you accept, or how much you can see and how much you accept of what you can see. So the lower your consciousness, the less you accept and the less you see. So the rapid enlightenment process, it takes on a two-prong approach. One, my goal is to expose people to context that when they are exposed to it, it instantaneously jars their reality. It shocks them into seeing things in a completely new way. Then the second part of that is to utilize a framework of acceptance. So one of the base tenets of the rapid enlightenment process is total and complete acceptance of all people in all situations at all times, including yourself. And what has to happen now is the moment you set that intention, my objective is to accept all people in all situations at all times, to accept all aspects of life. The moment you set that intention, you now have to confront how much you don't accept. And then once you confront how much you don't accept, then you have to start to look and see, well, what is the source of my opinion? Because what you discover is that all suffering is sourced in opinion. That if you didn't have an opinion about it, you wouldn't suffer. If you were just like, okay, that's fine, great. No opinion, no suffering. So the moment you have the realization, right? So you come to one of my events or you do one of my processes, suddenly there's an expansion in what you are willing or what you can see. Now you have to confront, can I accept what I see? Because you go into these existential states, and what you see is jarring because it's not what you normally would see in life. Normally it's like, I need to have a kid and I need to have a nice car and I need to live a great life and I have to, I even talk to go hang out with my yoga friends. It's like, and I have to have 14 yoga studios and I need to make sure I'm going to change the world because it's all broken. And I have decided through my infinite wisdom that the world should be a better place and we should all be spiritual, right? We don't even realize how arrogant we are as spiritual people and how much we don't accept. So as your consciousness goes up, you see more. Now you have to deal with that I'm actually greedy, but I'm greedy in a different way. I'm greedy for people to be enlightened. I'm afraid that the world isn't enlightened enough, and therefore it's broken. And somehow the world is being victimized because evil exists, rather than recognizing evil is a part of the process. Evil is just as valuable to consciousness as positivity and joy is. They are equally valuable. And the question becomes, where do you want to spend your time? I think that the foundation of the entire process is, one, experiencing contexts that are beyond normal, rational ways of thinking, and two, practicing techniques to accept what you see. That in the nutshell is the rapid enlightenment process.
That's amazing. I love it. Spot on. Spot on. I'm going to ask it right away so I remember. I'd love to know some of those techniques, and then I'd like to share some of the feedback on that, because for me, that's actually something that I had to face maybe in my early 20s when I was figuring out what was going on and reading, I've been reading on Zen and Enlightenment for a long time. And so then it got to the stage of, oh God, the world is so broken, sweet, sweet bananas. What do I do? And then for a few years, I was depressed, and I put the whole world on my shoulders. And I was still learning and seeking, and I came to this space where I essentially came to that. It's like, what makes you think that the world is broken? What makes you think that you're the one who's supposed to save it? And then, divine source is like, this isn't broken, dumb. This is, I have the oceans, I'm doing the sun, I'm doing everything. Now you're in a space, though, you're in a container where you get to choose and look at things that you can improve. And then that's going to be your gift, and that's what you can do that. And that, if that lights you up and that makes you feel like you're growing, it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe if you're a flower and light and kindness and service is the sun, and you kind of grow up and it makes you feel good, that's fantastic. And it's not your job to kind of do that for anyone else and think, oh, they're not doing it. Now it's, that's where the compassion piece comes in with the Buddhist monks and things like that. When I studied in Nepal, and just the concept is that you have compassion because you were aware what it was like to be in Maya and be confused and to have that, but you don't go and be confused. Also, you just respect their process and you hold your space for where you are. And if there's an opportunity to help them in a way that's aligned with you, you can do that. But they're not your responsibility. So I think that's a really important way to view it, and you touched on that really nicely. So maybe you can just share a couple of those tools, because I know one of the ways, on a big scale will be either Burning Man is one of those contextual experiences that you go through that rattles your brain and whole life and makes you reconsider everything. Ayahuasca can have that. There can be a spontaneous awakening. There could be just a conversation. And I think that you're so right, even in a direct conversation, with what people can handle, right? They kind of have this gauge, right? And so even though they see it, they might not want to accept it because it starts to shatter their paradigm. So I think that is a really important piece of the equation, and would love to hear some of the tips.
All right, so I think it's going to start with this, and hold on, I'm trying to bring this slide up here for you so that we can look at it together. Okay,
I'm
and
stoked. I haven't done a slide on here, and I know
yeah.
I think I'm working on a podcast with Alan Green, who does these, and Dan Winter, and they're always slides. So it's a good to test and get
All right,
interactive.
so I don't. Let's
Nice.
see, is it sharing?
It's loading.
All right, cool.
Yes. Success.
So the really important thing in the rapid enlightenment process is to recognize that awareness is the key. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I'd like to just say it in this way, that awareness makes you flexible. So you have to be flexible to start. And if you are not flexible, then new options don't appear. So you start with awareness. The moment you become aware, so when I meet people, they're holding the gun and they're shooting themselves in the foot on a regular basis. And they're like, Matthew, I'm walking around and my foot is bleeding all the time. And it's such a pain in my butt and I don't know what to do and I'm so impeded. And then with awareness, the first thing that I do is I go, uh, who's holding the gun, yo? And they're like, holy shit, the gun is in my hand. And I go, that's right. There's the gun right there. And the gun typically, if we look on the slides, it's typically going to be experienced as an unconscious reflex of the drunk monkey. So suddenly the drunk monkey is forecasting negativity, or the drunk monkey is wanting to fit in and be a part of the group, or the drunk monkey is trying to be right about things. These kinds of awarenesses are incredibly important. The moment you become aware, you become flexible. So you go, oh my gosh, that's me with the gun. And then now it occurs to you, well, maybe I won't pull the trigger. Maybe I'll put the gun down. Maybe I'll get a Band-Aid. Maybe I will start to love on my foot instead of shooting it over and over and over. A whole new set of options appears. And then those options give you power. So power for humanity, a power for a human being, is related to optionality. The more options you have, the more power you have. So all you have to do is begin with awareness. The moment you can see what's happening is the moment you have choice. And as soon as you have choice, now you can start to deal with what is the benefit to me to continue to be a victim? Because there's a tremendous amount of benefit in being a victim. There's so much benefit in being a victim. It's like the most popular thing on earth. There is no more popular way of operating than being a victim. So you have to deal with your own stuff. You go like, wait a second, I'm being a victim here. So let's go to the slide. The reality we're experiencing is way down here, this little circle. That's our reality. The reality is being shaped in this way. It starts up here in the quantum field. And the quantum field is really the genesis of our reality. And it is expressing itself through us. Now, our slice of that reality, we'll call it our soul, our consciousness, has its own set of balances, imbalances, creative forces, destructive forces, and it occurs through deep investigation. We use a lot of applied kinesiology for our investigative tools, very, very effective contextualizing tool. But it occurs that inside of consciousness, you have all these unexplained tendencies. So you and I, Matt, we came in a certain way. We came in sort of spiritual wackadoodle types. Do you know what I'm saying? Like we were just like, you know what? Life isn't what everybody says it is, right? And it's just like a natural part of the way that we were. And there's other people who come in, they're like, you know, ooh, math, right? Or, oh, basketball, right? Everybody just has their own like thing that they come in with. We're going to call that a part of the soul or consciousness. If you don't have a tool for understanding what's going on in your consciousness, then you will always feel like life is pulling you, or life is forcing you to be a certain way. So there's a certain set of techniques that you have to utilize, and typically we utilize them with applied kinesiology. We'll actually investigate what strengthens you and what weakens you, not what's true and what's false. That to me, one of my mentors, Dr. Hawkins, was really excited about truth and falsehood. And what I found is that truth and falsehood is contextual, and really all muscle testing will tell you is what's strong and what's weak, and that's it. So we use that to investigate consciousness. That then helps you to become aware of that there are these hidden motives to survive. And they are a part of what we'll call your unconscious. And those hidden motives, if you don't know what they're, greed, grudge, hatred, victim, illogical rules, humble is a hidden motive. You and I, as spiritual types, we've been trained that we should be more humble. But what does humble actually mean, Matt? It means to make yourself lower or less important. That's not an effective context, my friend, to be lower. Resistance is a hidden motive. Traitor is a hidden motive. We hide ourselves. We don't tell people what we really think for fear of losing some imaginary benefit. We're attached. We're attached to realities that don't exist. The awareness of this is unbelievable. When we point it out, when we're like, hey, here's a reality, look at it, right? People are like, there's an like a revolting feeling that people have, but that revolting feeling then gives way to a whole new reality. Then you have your personality, and your personality really is nothing more than survival reflexes. So you have the unconscious reflexes of the drunk monkey, and that creates your reality. So the most important thing here in the process of rapid enlightenment is awareness. And it's my job as the teacher of my students, my job is to assist people in becoming aware of the, let's call them karmic influences, and giving them tools to address the karmic imbalances that are occurring, then to see the hidden motives, then to recognize the unconscious reflexes. And as soon as they have these things in an effective context, they're able to shape their reality in a way that is unparalleled, and they can create enlightened prosperity. I hope that explains it. I will.
Wow.
Yeah. Here's a little drunk monkey for you. Ta-da.
Nice.
Here's the list of hidden motives.
Oh,
Being
perfect.
greedy,
Yeah, that's
playing the victim, following illogical rules, being humble, hiding your true intentions, being a traitor, pride, being lazy, resistance, holding grudges, hating. So many of us spiritual types, we hate negativity. Like when people are negative, we're like, oh, that person's so negative, right? But we literally engage the thing that we are resisting. We use the thing we're resisting against ourselves. And it is with this awareness that, oh man, everything shifts and changes. All right, I'll stop sharing. I'll stop screen sharing. We'll go back to video mode. Hi, and we're back now.
That was great. I love that. Yeah, you touched on a lot of points there that are really great. And I was actually working with an amazing new client of mine as well today, and just how common is, some people call it shadow work. For some reason, that term bugs me. I don't know why it is.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed. Because to me, what it implies that it's somehow bad or shady, and it's not.
right.
It's just an aspect of consciousness that is entropic in nature. So we want to move more towards the creative, self-ordering side of consciousness, and part of doing that is to release our fascination or association with the entropic side of things.
Yep, wonderful. This is why I have guests like you. See, it's my own upgrades, and then bringing light. The way that I kind of phrased it to her was just bringing awareness to it, bringing it in light. You know what I mean? Like enlightenment, just to be aware of a full 360 upside down view of it, not bad and not, oh, this is good, this is bad. So I love that you say it. Like, is this? How did you phrase it? Is this helping me or
Is it
hindering me or?
is it yeah, is it creative? Is it moving forward? Is it moving towards? Or is it entropic? Is it degrading and moving away from?
Right, exactly. And creative, to create. You are creating and
Yeah.
you are a creator, and you have the option to create disharmony and discord and
Yeah.
disease, and you have the option to create wealth, prosperity, abundance, flow. And a part of that is moving through and seeing the full awareness and aspects of you that you're identifying with. And for sure, that's a really great touch point on the spiritual community, for because it's something that I dealt with. I was like fully of service forever, as all the way in, and really struggle with that ability to receive, right? Because I did perceive as like, the less than, and you have these little tiny
Humble.
things that make a huge difference in how you relate. And I'm constantly learning. One of the recent fears I've had over the podcast was like, oh shoot, I've grown a lot in the last 10 years, 12 years, and each year it's kind of growing even more. So I'm going to hear myself and be like, oh man, you dumb. You know what I mean? Just, where were you then? And so, just I always offer for people to really just honor their own process and growth and where they are. Take what people are saying and become your own master. Because
Yeah.
I'm not here to try and tell you how it's done. It's just to have open conversations with people who are moving towards things that feel better in a holistic manner, not in a shove it in the corner and never look at it. It's just, okay, cool, how do I grow and know more of myself? And that's kind of my process, is wanting to know myself, wanting to uncover who I am really. What is this life experience? What is consciousness itself? Is such a gnarly concept, and you just open up more and more rabbit holes the deeper you go down. And so, the more aligned we can be, the easier the ride. And you can only know whether you're giving yourself a bumpy ride and you're hitting every rock on the bank, or you're kind of in the middle and surfing the wave and it feels good. And that's kind of, what we're sharing. So grateful to have you on.
Well, I'm grateful to be a part of it. For the majority of my life, I have not spoken about these things in public, and I have been sort of in my laboratory, working with thousands and thousands of clients, personally assisting them in going into a state of complete quietness in their mind and extreme levels of discernment, being able to look at a person directly in their eye and see with absolute clarity the aspects of that person that are degrading and the aspects of that person that are creative. And that provides an advantage unparalleled advantage in life. And if you're able to see someone in a degrading state and not resist in any way, it gives you such an advantage, because the moment you resist the degrading aspects of life, it's the moment that you literally invoke within yourself those aspects in which you are resisting. I say it like this: what you accept will transform, what you resist will persist. So the ultimate state is to be in a state of acceptance, total and complete acceptance. But that doesn't mean that you allow yourself to be degraded. So, for example, I don't intentionally sleep with black widows in my bed, but I also don't resist the black widows in the backyard. I understand their place in the process. I don't intentionally resist the hawk that is flying around in the backyard. I love the roadrunner back there, but I have seen many roadrunners disappear, and I don't resist the nature of things, but I also don't allow myself to be degraded. So I don't put myself in a situation where I'm intentionally and purposefully using my spiritual power to be okay with things that are actually degrading and pulling me down. I'm like you. I'm seeking to go into greater and greater states of harmony, happiness, and peace. And that doesn't make me better than anybody else. That's just what I'm into. I'm the aspect of the universe that is growing towards greater states of order. And then there are other people and things in the world that are part of the universe that are entropic in nature, and they are growing into, or they are degrading into these negative states, and that's okay. Negativity and positivity are equally valuable to the universe, and not one is better than the other. They both exist in this place that we are. And when you and I can be completely in negativity and not resist it in any way, then we don't become it. And so often what we're doing is we're resisting the negativity of life, and then we're experiencing it, and then we're hating it, and then we're becoming arrogant and right about it. And it literally is just see you later, driving us down. All is
Yeah,
well in the
man.
world, my friend. All is well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was thinking of an analogy, and I don't know if it equates, but maybe you can kind of help out because it just came to my mind. It's kind of like you resist, right? Let's say you hurt your back really bad and you're bedridden. You can barely walk, like you can't move. And so, you could have that as like the external force. Somebody's being an ass to you, or something challenging happens in your life, in some sort of manner, right? And so the resistance would be, I don't accept this, so I'm going to start trying to jog, but your body is like, you know what I mean? And then you just make it worse and worse, rather than you're kind of like accepting the thing that happened. And now you're going to work with the situation that you have. And that could, maybe allow you to read more books. The example that comes to my mind is Bruce Lee, where he did hurt his back. He was bedridden. He didn't go try to train and do it the way that he saw it. He read all these books on martial arts, Western boxing, and he learned, he said, probably the greatest amount of information that transformed him, became really who he was, because it was forced. And so he didn't resist the injury. So we're doing it in these microcosms of these interactions, right? Politics could be a good one, right? I'm not resisting that you're left or right wing or whatever the case is. You're that, and it's just information, and that's fine. But if I resist and I got to push back and be your opposite, then you're going to always find somebody to bicker with. And so, when you accept it, you could also learn something valuable from that side. It doesn't mean you have to take that side, doesn't mean you go let the black widow bite you. You're just allowing it to be, which is its right. And so that's kind
I
of what
am
I was thinking of that.
so I am so thankful for Donald Trump being in office, because it is so evident that he is waking people like you and I up, and that we have been um, very comfortable in our upward mobility and our joyous disposition and our desire to do good. We've been, kind of just hanging out, enjoying that. And it's so interesting to watch the mobilization of good, the mobilization of acceptance and appreciation that has occurred in the presence of someone who represents, hating and non-inclusive, and keep people out and push people away and destroy, and he represents what appears, at least in just in the view that I have, appears to be a more degrading perspective, And it's so wonderful to have that degrading perspective be so well broadcast. And suddenly you see all of these more creative, upward, more ordering perspectives waking up and saying, wait a second, what if we accepted everybody? What if we allowed it all to be? What if it was okay right now? What if all was well in the world? It's so wonderful to watch. I don't have an opinion either way, really, about politics and what's happening there. But I am fascinated by the dynamic and the play that happens as one perspective gets pushed forward. It creates the opposition, and the other perspective gets pushed forward. It's very, very interesting to watch. And the game is, can you watch it without resistance? Can you watch it with curiosity, with intrigue, with interest, knowing that you are an infinite being and that none of it really matters, and that in the end, you're going to die, and no one will really care. Like, they'll have a moment or two, and we wish they were here again, right? But, give them 5, 6, 8, 10 years. See you later. We don't remember you. Sorry. So I think that the self-importance is one of the most valuable things to transcend.
Amazing. I resonate with all that, and I think that's a beautiful closing statement, because I know you have to go try your hand at golf for the first time. So
Look at this. Look at this.
Yeah.
I'm all golfy.
Yeah, you're ready to go, man. Just, take it, just swing easy, man. Just swing easy and just visualize success and just have fun. I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting game for sure.
Hey,
I appreciate.
I have put together a couple of cool little goodies for people. So if they'll go to matthewferry.com/Matt Belair, I got some cool little goodies for people. A rundown on 7 steps that they can take to experience more happiness and peace right now is my gift to them. A little mental retraining of their mind to get them into a little more opulence and let's call it prosperity thinking. And then the first 4 chapters of my new book, Quiet Mind, Epic Life, which are coming out. It's going to come out in June. So if they'll go to matthewferry.com/Matt Belair, they can download those as my gift to them.
Oh, amazing, man. You didn't tell me that. That's awesome. Thanks. Well, I'm going to go pick it up myself. I think that you carry real wisdom and also practicality. And I think that a lot of people out there, they feel it's divided, where if you're spiritual, you're the hippie with dreadlocks and, doing essential oils and singing bowls, which I love to do. And I do those
Me
things.
too.
I can't have the right. Yeah, it's great. And there is the practical side, though. There is the reality that we live in, and we're navigating it to the best of our ability. And I think that you're a great ambassador of embodying both and balance from your perspective. So I appreciate the gift. I definitely think everybody should check it out. There's going to be good info. I'm gonna check it out. I'd love to see some of the work, and excited to read the book. So just thank you for your work. Thanks for coming out and putting your energy and intention to create an offering you're inspired to do. I think it's wonderful. And just anything else you'd like to close with, or send the listeners, a message, or you feel complete?
Yeah, I think I'd like to close in this way. So my goal is to help high conscious go-getters achieve enlightened prosperity so they can quiet their mind and live an epic life. And I believe that the way that we do that is to recognize that the source of life within you is the source of life in everything. And that we're literally all one thing expressing itself with infinite variety. Therefore, there's nothing to resist. And when you are in a state of no resistance whatsoever, everything flows your way. And I hope that starts to happen for you sooner versus later.
Amazing. I love it, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody definitely check out his stuff, and let's stay in touch. If there's any way I can support what you're up to, man, happy to shout and support that way. I think you're doing amazing work.
Let's do it, brother.
Okay, take care. Thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks,
See ya.
everybody. Bye-bye.